Picture this. You're 36 years old, sitting at your trading desk making hundreds of thousands of dollars in single days. The adrenaline is pumping, the money is flowing, and you feel invincible. Then suddenly, a sharp pain shoots through your chest. Your left arm goes numb. The burning sensation spreads to your neck. This isn't anxiety from a bad trade. This is your body telling you that your pursuit of trading success has nearly killed you. This is exactly what happened to Anthony Crudell, a 30-year trading veteran who started as an 18-year-old runner on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange floor. His story isn't just about making millions in the markets. It's about the hidden psychological cost of trading success and the moment everything changed. Today, we're diving deep into Anthony's journey, from the trading pits to his hospital bed, exploring the mental battles that every serious trader faces, and uncovering the psychological insights that could save your trading career and possibly your life. The foundation: early struggles and psychological patterns. Anthony's trading journey began not with dreams of wealth, but with necessity. After a devastating car accident that nearly severed the main artery in his leg, he found himself rehabilitating by taking a job as a runner on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. He had no idea what the exchange was. He was simply trying to rebuild his shattered leg and find his place in the world. But here's where the psychology gets interesting. From day one, Anthony exhibited what psychologists call identity fusion. He didn't just work in trading, he became a trader, even when faced with multiple account blowouts, borrowing $25,000 twice from his mentor and scraping together $10,000 from his aunt. He never wavered in his core identity. This psychological phenomenon is both the blessing and curse of successful traders. The unwavering belief in one's trading identity can sustain you through years of losses, but it can also create a dangerous psychological dependency that we'll see manifest later in Anthony's story. Consider how Anthony describes his mindset during those early blow-up years. I always felt like I knew what I was doing. I always felt like I was on the right path, even though I was losing money. This isn't delusion. It's a specific type of cognitive bias that psychologists call commitment escalation. The more you invest in something, the harder it becomes to abandon it, even when rational analysis suggests you should. The pattern repeated itself. Lose money, borrow more, lose again, yet never question the fundamental premise. Most people would call this stubborn. Trading psychologists recognize it as both necessary resilience and potential self-destruction. The lucky break, when preparation meets opportunity. Then something shifted. After years of grinding, Anthony's strategy suddenly started working, not gradually, explosively. He went from his last $10,000 to doubling it, then tripling it, eventually reaching six figures and beyond. Anthony is refreshingly honest about this period. People don't want to talk about luck enough. I lasted just long enough to where the market became conducive to the strategy I was doing. This honesty reveals a crucial psychological insight that most trading educators won't tell you. Successful trading careers often depend on surviving long enough to catch the right market environment for your approach. It's not just about having a good strategy, it's about having the psychological endurance to execute that strategy through multiple market cycles until conditions align. But here's where the psychology gets complex. That same commitment bias that kept Anthony trading through the losses now worked in his favor. While others might have switched strategies or quit during the difficult periods, his psychological rigidity actually became an asset when market conditions finally matched his approach. The rapid success created new psychological challenges. Anthony describes making $10,000, $25,000, even $100,000 in single days with ease. This level of success can create what psychologists call outcome bias, where you attribute success to skill rather than recognizing the role of favorable conditions. The psychology of lifestyle inflation. Success brought new psychological traps. Anthony's story takes us through the seductive world of trading floor wealth, the expensive cars, multiple houses, lavish lifestyle. He walked into a Mercedes dealership at 29 and bought a brand new AMG without financing concerns. He purchased houses in multiple states, living the high-rolling trader lifestyle. But underneath this success lurked a psychological time bomb. Each purchase, each lifestyle upgrade, created what behavioral economists call hedonic adaptation, where your baseline expectations continuously rise. What felt like abundance became the new normal, then eventually felt insufficient. More critically, these expenses created psychological pressure that would later prove devastating. Anthony had transformed from someone who needed to make money to survive into someone who needed to make enormous amounts just to maintain his lifestyle. The psychological pressure had multiplied exponentially. This pattern reveals why so many successful traders eventually self-destruct. It's not just about money management, it's about identity management. Anthony had built an identity not just around being successful, but around being spectacularly successful. When that success faltered, it threatened his entire sense of self. The collapse, when psychology becomes physiology. Then 2009 arrived. After years of seven-figure success, Anthony found himself unable to make anything work. He describes the experience with haunting clarity. I made a bunch of money the first couple of weeks. Started off really strong and then just could do nothing right. I was numb. This wasn't just a losing streak. It was a complete psychological breakdown disguised as trading difficulties. The pressure of maintaining expensive lifestyles while losing money created a feedback loop of desperation and poor decision-making. Anthony's experience illustrates a concept from behavioral psychology called loss aversion escalation. Each loss didn't just hurt financially, it threatened his identity as a successful trader. This led to increasingly desperate attempts to recover, each failure compounding the psychological damage. The physical symptoms began to manifest. Anxiety so severe, he was seeing a psychologist at 22, barely breathing while trading, chewing Flintstone vitamins in desperation. His body was sending clear signals that his psychological approach to trading was unsustainable. But the most telling psychological insight comes from Anthony's description of fighting the zero mark, constantly trying to get back to even. This behavior reveals how his identity had become so intertwined with being profitable that breaking even felt like failure. The psychological pressure was no longer about making money. It was about maintaining his sense of self. The ultimate price, when your body says stop. The inevitable happened on what seemed like an ordinary trading day in 2014. Anthony was sitting at his computer, actually feeling positive about his recovery from the previous difficult years, when chest pains began. Initially dismissing it as anxiety, he soon realized this was different. At 36 years old, Anthony was having a heart attack at his trading desk. The medical diagnosis was coronary spasm. Essentially, years of stress had caused his heart to attack itself. This wasn't cardiovascular disease from poor diet or genetics. This was his body physically rejecting the psychological pressure he'd been placing on himself for decades. The psychological impact was immediate and profound. Anthony describes the identity crisis that followed. Fear of losing your identity. Who am I now? After the heart attack, he found himself crying during exercise, terrified that his trading career, his entire sense of self, might be over. This moment reveals the ultimate psychological trap of professional trading. When your identity becomes so fused with your trading success that health crises feel like existential threats. Anthony wasn't just afraid of losing money or his career. He was afraid of losing himself. The transformation. Finding balance in the chaos. But here's where Anthony's story takes a redemptive turn. The heart attack became a catalyst for the most important psychological shift of his trading career. Instead of returning to his previous intensity, he forced himself to slow down, to become more self-aware, to find other sources of identity and income. He describes the transformation. I became so much more self-aware of what I was doing wrong. I became so much more self-aware of what I was doing right. I had this awareness. The near-death experience had broken through decades of psychological patterns and forced genuine self-reflection. Anthony began diversifying not just his investments, but his identity. He started podcasting, invested in other businesses, and began thinking long-term rather than just about the next trade. Most importantly, he learned to separate his self-worth from his trading performance. The psychological insight here is crucial. Sustainable trading success requires multiple sources of identity and validation. When trading is your only measure of self-worth, every loss becomes an existential threat, creating the kind of pressure that led to Anthony's heart attack. His advice to current traders reflects this hard-won wisdom. Think long-term, your short-term results will get better. This isn't just about trading strategy, it's about psychological sustainability. The deeper lesson, trading as a mirror. Anthony's story reveals trading's function as a psychological mirror. The markets don't just reflect our strategies, they reflect our deepest fears, desires, and identity issues. Every trade becomes a test, not just of our market analysis, but of our self-concept. The traders who survive and thrive long-term are those who recognize this psychological dimension. They understand that managing their mental state is as important as managing their risk. They develop what Anthony calls great self-awareness and the ability to slow things down when the heat is on. This isn't about eliminating emotions or becoming mechanical. It's about recognizing that trading success requires psychological sophistication. You need to understand not just what the markets are doing, but what they're doing to you. Anthony's emphasis on breathing, on taking time, on developing other interests, these aren't peripheral concerns. They're core trading skills. The ability to maintain perspective, to separate your identity from your performance, to survive the inevitable drawdowns. These psychological capabilities often matter more than technical analysis or strategy selection. The ongoing journey, wisdom from the trenches. Today, Anthony continues to trade, but with a fundamentally different psychological approach. He describes himself as a blue-collar trader, someone who doesn't need to be the best, just needs to survive and remain profitable over time. This psychological shift from seeking spectacular success to sustainable consistency represents one of the most important insights for developing traders. The goal isn't to become a trading superstar, it's to develop a sustainable relationship with the markets that can weather multiple cycles and life changes. Anthony's current approach involves trading fewer markets, focusing on quality over quantity, and maintaining strict risk management, not just financially, but psychologically. He understands that his job isn't to predict the markets perfectly. It's to position himself to take advantage when opportunities arise and protect himself when they don't. The psychological maturity this represents cannot be overstated. After decades of boom and bust cycles, Anthony has learned to trade his personality, not against it. He's developed systems that account for his psychological tendencies rather than fighting them. Conclusion: the real education. Anthony Crudell's journey from an 18-year-old runner to a heart attack at his trading desk and back to sustainable success offers profound lessons for anyone serious about trading psychology. His story demonstrates that technical skills and market knowledge, while necessary, are insufficient for long-term success. The real education happens in understanding yourself, your motivations, your vulnerabilities, your identity patterns. The markets will ruthlessly expose every psychological weakness you have. The question is whether you'll learn from that exposure or let it destroy you. Anthony's heart attack was his body's final warning that his psychological approach to trading was unsustainable. His recovery and continued success demonstrate that it's possible to maintain a career in trading while developing a healthier relationship with both the markets and yourself. For those just beginning their trading journey, Anthony's story offers both warning and hope. The warning: trading success without psychological sophistication is ultimately unsustainable and potentially dangerous. The hope: with proper self-awareness and long-term thinking, it's possible to build a trading career that enhances rather than threatens your overall well-being. The markets don't care about your psychological health, but your long-term success depends on it. Anthony learned this lesson the hardest way possible. His story ensures you don't have to.